When you look at this roster, how good do you think it is? I thought the top of the roster last year was really good. The middle of the roster was pretty good. When you got into some of the backups, there were guys that you were like, okay, it's a young guy getting a chance. Well, now, if the young guys getting the chance don't perform, there are veteran guys there that have done it that are going to take their roster spots in all likelihood.
Yeah, I mean, I think the roster is solid. It's not a perfect roster. Nobody has a perfect roster, right? But if Watson plays well, then you look at, okay, I think he's got enough targets to throw to, right? We mentioned all the receivers and tight ends. I think Elijah Moore isn't, and obviously the Browns are counting on this, and I think they're probably right. He's an upgrade there, right? He gives you that another 2/3 behind Amari Cooper. The trio of Cooper, Peoples-Jones, and Moore, it feels solid, right? It's not Tyreek Hill / whoever. It's not the Eagles' two guys, but it's solid. And you got a couple tight ends, and you're arguably the best running back in the league. And your quarterback should raise the performance of everybody. You got a quality offensive line. Like, when you go to defense, I like the D ends. D tackles, probably still a little bit of a question mark, but you're counting on Tomlinson to be really good, and you're paying him like that. Linebacker, the question there is about health, but you got enough guys. You're not going to play a ton of linebackers. Corner's good, and then we'll see how the safeties are. So I feel like they're pretty solid, and they still have those guys at the top of the roster, the Chubbs and the Garretts and the Wards and the Batonios. And then, I think N's a perfect example, and receiver works too. But all of a sudden, Alex Wright was the number 3 guy last year, who wound up being the number 2 when Clowney would miss time or Garrett missed time after the car accident. Now, he's competing for that 4th role with Isaiah McGuire and Isaiah Thomas, right? So, first of all, none of those guys is going to be above a 4, assuming everybody's healthy. And then there's good competition to be that 4 spot. And I think that plays out kind of across the roster.
Yeah, you mentioned the wide receivers. I like the pick of Tillman. Look at all the different skill sets that you have brought into that room. And it was limited last year. You've given Deshaun Watson enough guys. Somebody in that group is going to become a guy that he has a chemistry with. And nobody knows who that is just yet.
No, and that's going to be key. And we talked so much heading into the offseason, they needed to add speed. And they did that with Moore and Goodwin. Then they added size, like special size that's not on this roster in Tillman. And now I think it's going to be training camp, right? Mostly training camp, preseason, maybe weeks 1, 2, and 3. Who really meshes with Watson? And when he's on those scramble drills, who has that kind of just instinct with him to find that opening? Because that's who's going to get a bunch of balls, because there are going to be off-schedule plays. A lot of his game is off-schedule. Now, I think Stefanski wants to hold that in a little bit and, get him throwing out of his hands quick and making the right decisions. But whoever develops that chemistry from the receiving core and the tight end group has a chance to lift this offense.
Yeah, I would agree. And you mentioned the off-schedule plays. Those are the things that separate him from being pretty good to being elite, because there's no way to game plan for that. You can set up and have a scheme. Bill Belichick can't stop that.
Right. And, you see it across the league, right? Mahomes has an element of that. Allen certainly does. Lamar obviously does. And I think that's certainly a key to Watson's game. Where I think he needs to be better from where he was at the end of last year is in the pocket, 3-step drop, whatever. Get the ball out of your hands to the easy completions, and not everything has to be a run around. And, I think he would admit this, and Stefanski would too, that playing out of the pocket might be the last thing to come back after missing as much time as he did.
Yeah, I agree. And what you're saying is take the easy yards. There's easy yards, and go take them, because that's the way you get sustained drives.
Yeah. And don't take hits, and don't put your offensive linemen in bad spots, right? Just easy plays and move the ball down the field.